Good morning still, Cyril. Good morning. Just one more minute.
So you have been seeing some. Hi, good morning, David.
Good morning, Cyril, Casper, and everyone.
Morning, Valentina.
Good afternoon, actually, as well.
Good morning, good afternoon.
I've been seeing some a message about a PSNP expert in making. So I think it put a smile on my face. So that means everyone is doing well. I will assume, yeah. So yeah, you have what 35 participants. Maybe in 2 or 3 minutes you can start when you reach 40.
Yeah. So let's wait a few minutes and we will start with the video. So.
Oh, David, I sent you a test. So if you have a minute.
All right, so welcome everyone. I think we are ready to start. We have about 46 people. Cyril, are you there? All right. So, okay, as I said before, when still people were connecting, the idea for today is to start with another video for the as a summary that we had pending from yesterday. This would be a video on segmentation. So this would serve as a refresher of that important concept that we need to have a clear idea of, because it will help us to prioritize our demand planning process. And then the agenda for today is pretty much looking into dollarization part of the system, as well as the gross demand template, where we are going to see together what it was the statistical forecast, the EPP demand, and the additional demand that we also added from equipment and so on. So if I'm going to share my screen, and if you can kindly confirm that you can see it, I would appreciate it. 1 second. And then you should also hear the music. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yes, David.
All right.
Yes.
We can.
Thank you so much. So yeah, so this video is again a video that was prepared by our colleagues in New York, part of the UCS team. So thanks to Atreji for this, and Dinesh and Casper. I'm going to maximize, and I think this video is very good. It's a very good summary of segmentation process that we saw a few days, I think 2 days ago.
Thank you, David.
Hello. In this video, we'll be explaining segmentation in planning, the importance, and steps required for it. So what is segmentation? Segmentation is a step for demand planning. Let's have a look. In demand planning, segmentation is the process that splits a group of products or commodities to smaller groups. The splitting is based on similar demand characteristics. So why is segmentation important? When the demand pattern varies, the quality of the forecast may be compromised. Segmentation is an important aspect for accurate demand forecast. Segmentation helps identify a pattern in large amounts of data, as shown in the following images. Let's look at few concepts for segmentation.
This was so remember that the segmentation process used as an input the adjusted history. So even though you might have already segmentation ABC codes in your products, after the adjusted history, you adjust the history, consumption history, segmentation could run again, and then we will have the final classification and the final segmentation in terms of ABC and XYZ for the forecast. All right. So remember that if you do adjustments, that is an input for the set. And the next step was to look at problem on the visualization. So 1 second, let me see what is the issue. Sometimes this website doesn't. Here. So the frequency, it's important to understand that it depends on an entity's characteristics, right? And at least it should be run once a year. Then the level of the segmentation, this was something we discussed already, I think 2 days ago. It's a commodity and plant level. So we actually have products classified at plant level. And then the horizon is considering 24 months of historical data. This is also the classification for ABC that it was explained by Valentina again. So we have 70% of the products, right? So the most important items that make the most impact, like 70%, right? And then we have 20% and the 10% for the segment C. So the impact is like less. It's more about the variation. Yeah.
Now let's look at the different steps you would have to carry out for segmentation. Remember that the demand planner can always manually edit data and lock it. So that is how segmentation works and is used for effective demand planning.
So this last step, I think we also show you.
Remember that the demand planner can always manually edit data and lock it.
Exactly. So that last sentence about locking segmentation is what we explain. If you understand that some items are strategically important, you can lock their segmentation, let's say the ABC code, basically, for example, and say this one is always A regardless.
So that is how segmentation works and is used for effective demand planning.
Consumption. Yeah.
Hope you found this video useful. Please visit emoja.un.org for more information.
All right, so that was it about segmentation video. Again, I think Valentina is sending also the links for the videos every day, and we have this file repository that we will send you. So you will have them all accessible at any time after the training. Is there, yesterday we saw together, what was that we saw yesterday? Yesterday we had a review of the, so we saw, now I got lost after all this session.
Equipment.
Right? So equipment was yesterday or the day before yesterday?
Additional demand.
Additional demand, exactly, that was.
Yeah.
So we saw equipment. Is there any question that we have pending from equipment and additional demand? Or we can start with the new content? So if there is anything, after you did the exercises, maybe some of you have some pending question in terms of business?
Yeah, I think Stefan was asking if 70% of the product are, the video showed that 70% of the product are in segment A.
Yeah, but the reality is right, Valentina, you can, yeah. So this is about the number of products that mean the 70% of the volume or value, right, Valentina?
Yes, it's in terms of consumption, so it's quantity and then obviously value, because any quantity then it can be translated in value, and it's 70%. This is I believe Casper can confirm that this is something that was decided by the business. The Pareto rules is just adapted to the UN. The Pareto rules, it's a more generic. Yeah.
Yeah, so we might need to rephrase that sentence in the video. because the idea is to identify the products that mean the biggest part of the consumption or value of the mission. So that's why you identify them as the most important. Thank you, Stephen, for the point, because I think the video said something that could be confusing. There are a couple of hands. I think Salvatore wants to ask or comment something.
Yes, David, and good morning all. Really minor issue, but I don't know whether it's only related to UNGSC or for everybody. But just to explain where we are, if we are in the window opening the template in the field in the filter when we're selecting the filter, and we select a product ID. Do you remember you have to select from D to I in order to get the product ID, no description? Okay. Yeah. When we copy settings in all the tabs, sometimes the D and the I of the product ID is not reflected in all the tabs. We have to select manually. And this morning we were exercising, and in another tab we were a little bit confusing because we were getting the description instead of the product ID. Okay. Very minor issue, but just to...
Okay, so we'll take note of that, right? That we are tracking, and we will review with the system. So ISA2, I think, wants to add something about maybe was it about the segmentation? Yes, ISA2. You are muted, ISA2. You're muted. We cannot hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, just to clarify, like we said last time, for segmentation, we'll be using the value. For now, we did not dollarize yet. That's why when you go now, you will see only the quantity. But for the next sprint, we will dollarize and we will have the value for segmentation. On spare part, as we say, the first spare part, like the first reasoning behind bringing spare parts in IBP was to have consolidation. So, but globally for segmentation, it will be both. Like it will be value for now, and then when everything will be fine in the service intuition and in PO, we will be bringing quantity.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have another hand raised by Sayed. I think Sayed was already there.
Yeah. My question is on you just mentioned about the ABC. The A 70% is based on the value. So why not consider something hybrid, value as well as the frequently used item? Because when you talk about stock movement, the throughput is very important, because whatever is demanded frequently should be maintained in the inventory, which is what gives or helps the performance when it comes to the warehouse as well as the supply chain. So you may have a high value item just sitting in the shelf for a long time. There's not much of a movement. So think about that hybrid.
Okay, thank you. So maybe that's also more a point for Dinesha and Casper, right? So because the segmentation is meant to consider different elements. So right now it's considering value also related to the quality of the data. Dinesha, do you want to say something? Or Casper or Isa too?
Yes, like for now, like we said, it's at product and plant segmentation. The calculation is done at that level. So has like I said, the net price was already just last spring and testing this spring. That's why when you will have input for segmentation, you will have both cleans history, which will be input for ABC, and the initial historical data will be input for the XYZ. For now, like in the system, we have both, but for next sprint, when you will like do the when we will like in 2 weeks time, when we'll go to the system with the mission, you will see that we should have the value by that time. We should, because we're working on that.
Okay. So yes, also remember that we are following agile methodology, and we are let's say the product is still being finalized, and then that's why your feedback is very, very important. So all this is taken into account, and that's why also we are confirming with the last news from the project team. So Gisela, you are also holding your hand.
Yes, sorry, I just couldn't make out what Asatu has said in the beginning, but she's answered my question now in terms of dollarization, so it's clear. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. So, all right. So anyway, we still have. We sent yesterday actually the agenda for the third week. So it would be very important these sessions because we will go through another version of the exercises, and it will give us, now that you are more familiar with the solution, to use it with more freedom and without paying too much attention to where to click and so on. So we will have a second chance for these discussions next week when we go, we do the final review of the template. And having said that, I think it's a good moment to start the presentation, Valentina, and the new topics.
Oh yeah, sure.
So over to you.
Yes. All right, so today we are going to talk about dollarization and gross demand. So as we saw during the past 7 sessions, the gross demand elements that form the gross demand are the statistical forecast, which is the last process of a sequence of process performed by the system with the help of the planner in some of those processes, and the input of the planner on the entity priority project demand, and the additional demand for equipment replacement and other product with no history consumption, for which we cannot do the statistical forecast. Now, again, we're just going very quickly to this process. We know that the consumption history comes from Umoja production, is analyzed and adjusted by the planner during the historical data process. The final history is classified by the classification, which look at the data input, the time series. Remember, the time series are the data point that they are listed in a time series, time period. And this classification basically, is basically continuous and intermittent. Continuous is when we have a data point for each period that we choose to look at our observation, and intermittent, and we have several zero demand. This classification is then part of the process of the data cleansing, where we know that the system look for noise, so that behavior of the data that cannot be explained by the formula and not fix it. This is done only for continuous data. What happened then? The cleaning history goes into the statistical forecast. The segmentation we just finished reviewing with the video. The statistical forecast, we have 2 different paths. One is followed by the continuous data, which goes through, they went through, sorry, the classification and the cleansing. So the intermediate, these data are they are analyzed by the statistical forecast during the statistical forecast process using 2 methods. We know one is exponential smoothing, or using for continuous data, and the other one is the cross-tone, using for intermittent data. So the final we know the final statistical forecast, it will be the best fit, the one that it has among the 2 methods. It has the lowest error. We saw also how it's calculated error. So you remember the ex post in the template of the statistical forecast, when the statistical forecast is assigned also to the past, and having the actual demand in the past, we calculated the error as difference between the actual demand and the forecast applied to past months. This will give an idea how accurate is the method that it was applied to our data. This will go to the gross demand. Then the entity priority project demand is the demand and requirement of goods and services that are needed for to carry on a specific entity or mission project, which are not calculated in the in the somebody. Okay, sorry, somebody's giving. Yeah, thank you.
Valentina, I don't want to cut you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apparently, this the audio is not clear. Seems to have a couple of noise. So what I can advise, please, could you check your mic to make sure that your mic is mute for all the attendees, please. So I think it will help improving the sound, please.
So.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe you can proceed and you'll see if it's better.
Okay, so do I have to check if all my microphone is on for sure? So if somebody else has a microphone on, that's what you're saying?
So that's why I'm saying to all the attendees to check their mic. Maybe they have to mute their microphone so you can minimize the noise. So let's try that and you'll see if it will be better.
I think everybody is muted. Valentina, could you mute your microphone? Maybe there is some noise coming from your, just to do a test. Yeah, there is some noise with your microphone. Maybe if you can connect the headset or something to try.
Can you hear me now well? Otherwise,
yes.
I have to check location.
Much better. I think I was
okay.
Please you confirm the attendees. I think Ziad?
There is still some noise. I don't know what's going on.
Clear now.
Okay.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying that the entity project demand, which are the requirement, they are not included in our history because they are specifically for a project. So we add that, and we saw that 2 days ago. And then yesterday we talked about the equipment demand, the replacement of equipment that they are about to be replaced or repair, and the additional demand for new products. So now we have our gross demand, which is basically a quantity in the part of the good and obviously a value in the part of the service. Now the next process will be dollarization, which is basically converted calculating the value of this demand. Okay, so we have this basically summarize the element which I just went through, and the dollarization will be for now the first subject of this presentation, and then we will see that the gross demand template, which is the very last in our, actually the one before the last one in the solution, where the planner will have the opportunity to review and adjust the gross demand. And then we were going to talk about snapshot, which is the very last one. Okay, so we start with the dollarization. The dollarization is, as I said, the gross demand is calculated in quantity and as USD value, dollars value for the part that refers to services. And this template, we will see, then David will do the demo on this. It facilitates the management of the unit price to calculate the dollar value of the gross demand. So how does it do that? The system retrieves different unit prices for multiple sources and determines the final price according to this order that you see in this box. So the fair market value, in a second I will say something about it. The contract, which is taking consideration global, regional, and local, the purchase order, and the moving average price. So this fixed and variable actually refers to the fair market value. I apologize for the typo. So the solution, so it will pick up the unit price from one of those, and obviously we will multiply for the gross demand in terms of quantity. And it will dollarize the demand. Now, the fair market value, I cite, you see in the second paragraph, the system retrieves different unit prices for multiple sources, with the exception of the fair market value, which is something the planner needs to input if he can. And if he does, that will be the final price, the price that the system will pick up to calculate the value of the gross demand. There is any question on here? I would like to stop for a second before I go and show the template.
No, Valentina, is no question. at least on the chat.
Okay. Okay, so I go on, and the next will be showing you the template. You can see there are the different price there, the contract unit price, the purchase order, the moving average price, and then the fixed and the variable, which is the part as part of the fair market value. And you see in red the calculation of the final price. So the one that will be going to the next slide, which is the final tab, the second tab of the dollarization, where you can see the final gross demand and the final gross demand value. Okay, this is just for your reference in the future to have this in the presentation as a document to refer to if you need, but David is going to go through this in 10 minutes, I think. So now the gross demand template. So what this template does, so we first of all, it will pick up the value of the dollarization, and it will show the value of the gross demand in quantity. We know already very well that the gross demand is the result from the addition of the final statistical forecast, the entity priority project demand, and the additional demand. So during this template, it will allow the planner to finally adjust if miss the opportunity to do this early to avoid double or missing demand. I'm sure we're going to have a discussion on that, so I am going to show you how it looks like, the gross demand. You can see the calculation-based gross demand value coming from the dollarization is over there, on the top of that, not underlining color. You have the financial statistical forecast, the additional demand. In this specific commodity and product, I don't have the EPP, but eventually it will be showing there if any, if this product is part of the entity priority project demand. And the main thing here and again, David is going to go through that, is the calculation-based gross demand is a quantity and then a value, and then you have the opportunity to adjust. Obviously, you will adjust the quantity. So if you do that, the system will do the process again. So it will do adjustment gross demand, which will be adjust, and then the final gross demand, and then the value. Before I go to, so this is just a visualization of we just saw. I think it's pretty clear. So it's just another way to have to remember what is the gross demand about the template. Now again, the total gross demand we know includes these three elements. Some product ID or commodity may have been considered in different planning steps. And it's important to review the final gross demand to avoid a double or missing demand and adjust if needed. Before eventually taking question and comment on this, let me say that this is basically adjustment that you might have made for the EPP or for the additional demand. So this is just another opportunity for the planner to review before calculating the final value. The final gross demand is calculated in quantity and U is value, and we know that. Sorry. Okay. The template, it will calculate the final value of the quantity. Now the last template is the snapshot. What does it do? It allows to have the 24-month gross demand plan monthly and yearly, so it's possible to see the evolution of the rolling plan. So you can just save to have a reference next time you do the planning. The system allows to say up to 9 snapshots, so for future comparison. So it's just a very simple way to see the evolution of the rolling plan year after year. So you're gonna see now in a moment how it looks like, and okay, no, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so I guess sorry, I don't know. It disappeared, the template. Okay, I'm sure David it will show that. And just to say that the snapshot it will differentiate into different rows according to the kind of budget period you have. So it will refer in PR1 for budget from January to December, and P2 as July, June. So obviously you are not going to use both of them, you're going to use one of them, but just to say that it differentiates the two budget period. The last 3 slides here is it's just a summary of everything we saw, just put in a different way. You're going to see this is differentiated between main process and sub process, so output. So again, you see the historical data, the output is the final system, the classification, the data cleanses as cleans history as output, and the classification and data cleansing with the 2 activity for the correction of the outlier and missing value. So the 2 activity of the data cleansing, and the following is the statistical forecast with the segmentation process for segmentation of product, and then the 3 elements that form the gross demand. Okay, this is basically about it. I'm going to correct this presentation before sending. I didn't the screenshot of the snapshot, and if you have any question, I'm going to just close the sharing, and then we can take question. Thank you. Sorry if my internet today wasn't behaving very well. David?
Valentina, I think I don't see any question per se. There are some comments on segmentation that are being addressed, through the chat. So, but I see Leo has a hand. So, Leo, can you speak up?
Yeah, I have a question, please, as I'm not clear still. When we talk about additional demand, now if we go back into the templates, it's equipment consisting of 4 lines, let's say, useful life, write-off, and repairs, and additional demand, right? Now, my question is, within that additional demand, should we include the 3 lines above or the 4 above the equipment regarding the equipment, or this data regarding the equipment will come later on in net demand formula? Over. Was I clear enough?
Maybe can you repeat again,
yeah,
Leo,
sure.
if you don't mind,
please.
So
if we agree that, because we move towards the net demand, and now we cover gross. The formula of net demand is gross minus projecting holdings, right? Now you included the equipment portion of the write-offs and repairs within the gross. Now, this means that the question is, if we deem the additional, because the system doesn't sum them up automatically, right? As David said yesterday, under additional demand, you just plot in something, for new event or etc. Now, why did you highlight the portion of equipment, regardless if it's nearing useful life or write-off or repair, within this area? You want us to amend or to include them within the additional demand?
So, if I may, Cyril. So let me see if I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the point is why we are mentioning now the equipment. So they think, I mean, if I understood correctly, on the equipment template that we saw yesterday, we were reviewing what was nearing useful life, and we added that as an additional demand for replacement. But when we will see the gross demand template, we will see all the key figures together that are going to gross demand. So you can review here to check if, for example, based on the consumption history, you were adding some demand, and then for the replacement you were adding some demand, and then you can cross-check if there is any duplication, for example. So you have all the figures together, and we will show it now in the system after the break, and that will help you to understand in what parts of the system you are adding, let's say, demand for equipment, and if it makes sense. So I'm not sure if I'm replying to your question, but I'm not sure either I'm getting the point.
Probably better to wait a bit to see the gross demand template.
Okay.
And after that, I will come back with a question.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So once we see, thank you so much. All right. So if I see the next
question.
Yeah.
There is a question from Mario. Mario, can you?
Exactly. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Valentina.
Okay. But I think Dinesha answered to him. All right. Okay, maybe we can say the question and for everybody to hear the answer.
Yeah, go ahead, Valentina, then.
Okay, I wasn't waiting for Mario and Dinesha to step. Maybe Dinesha, you answer. You can summarize the question and the answer. Dinesha?
Sorry, I was muted. No, Mario's question was, why can't we use the contract price? I think we are using the contract price. Like Valentina explained, the first priority is contract price. Then it's the purchase price within the last 3 years, with the most recent one where applicable. And if none of those two are found, then we go to MAP. And lastly, if entities feel that nor the contract nor the PO or MAP reflects the true price of the item, we have the ability to override with the fair market value. I don't think we got into too much detail here, but one of the things is that we know for things like fuel that there is a fixed component and a variable component. So at times, and especially with an commodity like fuel, if the price is changing, the planner is able to enter a value through the fixed and the variable component and reflect that as the fair market value. And as all of you know, the contracts today to a certain degree has product category based contracts as well. So not in all clear terms, we are able to identify a price per product or a service. And in some contracts, there isn't a clear service ID stipulated either. So those are the reasons why we chose an order of priority. It's contract, PO, and MAP. If none of that works, it's the fair market value. And in cases like fuel, fair market value includes fixed and variable. David, please.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dinesha, for clarifying that. So and thank you, Valentina, for the presentation. I think now when we will go to the system, it will make a bit more. It will be a bit more clear. Valentina touched 3 different elements. One was dollarization, another one was the gross demand, and another one was a snapshot. Since we have extending the session, I think the exercise for a snapshot and the demonstration, we will do it tomorrow. And today we are going to focus on these 2 elements. However, if you don't mind, I would like to have a short break before we start with the demonstration, because I'm also seeing some small technical. I'm having some small technical issues. So let's do a break of, let's say, 5 minutes, and we do the demonstration after the break, if it's okay with you. Actually, there is another question from Herbert that we can address after the break if you want. All right, so I'm going to, yeah, if you can, maybe Valentina, could you please, or Cyril, could you please put a timer of 5 minutes and share your screen?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So talk to you in 5 minutes. It will be like 12:50, something like that.
Okay, 5 minutes. Thank you for staying online. So, David, are you there? Valentina? Maybe someone could respond. Are you back? Are you in?
Okay, yes, yes, I was muted.
Yes, we're here.
Okay, stop it then. So I think now you will go and start showing the demo.
Cyril, one second.
Yes.
Before we go through that, there is a question from Giselle. Can we revise the presentation to reflect the order in which the system considered the step? I just realized that, and also Herbert say was the source of the fair market value, and does it require the planner to manually enter it for each line? Since the discussion is a little bit on that, I would like Dinesh to answer to this and to clarify the order, and then we can go to the demo, since we still have question on that.
Thanks, Valentina. So Gisela, yeah, I think the presentation is right, because fair market value at any given time, if there is a fair market value, each system picks up the fair market value. But the question becomes is not for everything there will be a fair market value. There'll be a fair market value only if the planner maintains. And let me get to the point of planner maintaining a little later on. But what the system will predominantly use is in the order that I said before. It's contract, PO, and MAP. At any time the planner feels none of the contract, PO, MAP prices are correct, then the planner can influence the the fair market value. And fair market value, like I said, the pre-step before that is two components. It's the fixed and the variable. I believe for materials, it directly uses fixed because they are planned based on quantity. And for fuel, it uses fixed and variable. So at any given time, like I said, if the planner doesn't feel none of those prices are right, then they can influence. And to answer Herbert's question, the source is, I guess at that point becomes, it's the planner, intelligent planner, whatever the planner believes the fair market value. Maybe later on, there'll be some guidance issued by SCPS on this fact. But I think once we say it's a fair market value, if it literally is the plan intelligent, and maybe within each entity at that point, you need to establish some rules around what does for each category or commodity of item, what constitutes as fair market value. And I think one of the examples that I gave earlier was fuel. For fuel, maybe it's the latest indexes from one of the fuel indexes out there in the market. I mean, I think for each commodity, it may differ, but the system has a capability where you can either upload or do a copy and paste functionality. I hope I answered everybody's question.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Dinesh. So basically, it's an estimate that comes from the planner.
Yes, and I think this is where Herbert, this is evolving still. We need to establish rules around what that estimate is, and I think we need to have clear-cut guidance. And like I said, for fuel, I think I can see some market exchanges being used, but for other items, I don't have all the knowledge to say what constitutes a fair market value. You're right, absolutely, it's an estimate.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for coming back. I think the 5 minutes are over. And yeah, I was checking with in the system. So I'm going to go to the demonstration on the dollarization portion as we were advancing, and the gross demand template. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we will go one by one. Okay. Can you see my screen? Could someone come?
Yeah, David.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, okay, so let's talk first about dollarization, and then we'll see what tabs we have in this template. So to open the template, it's as usual the same process. We just need to go to new view from template, And the template for dollarization, it's called actually dollarization, is the template 70. Right, I want to explain this one briefly because then in the gross demand we are also going to see the values. So I think it's useful. In this template, it is very important, please write it down. And don't forget to do this in the exercise. It's very important that you add the filter before running the template. And that you add the filter for all tabs. So enter the filter and then copy it to the rest of the tabs. So we are in unit price tab and copy the filter to the rest of the tabs. It's very important that you do this because otherwise you're going to, let's say the system is going to try to download all the product IDs with all the prices for all the plans, and it's a massive amount of data, and that will make the template load very slow. So that you will have some time to wait there. So remember to do this. Filter before running unit price, before opening unit price, or before, let's say, opening the dollarization template. Now, once you open it, and I already have it opened, so you don't have to wait, you will see 3 tabs. The main one and the most important, if I may say that, is the first one. It's called unit price, and it contains information that Valentino was explaining very clearly before the break. So we have on the left side, as usual, our attributes. I filter by this particular plant. So we have the plant, the product, the description, the type of material, and if they are managed as quantity or as value. And then we have these key figures. These different key figures, I think there are 7 of them. So we'll go one by one to explain the meaning. Let me start from the end. So this calculated final price is the price that the system is considering to transform quantities into values. So for any demand involving this product ID or this product ID, the system will look for the calculated final price, and we multiply, as we explained in the presentation, the quantity for the quantity or the demand for that particular month by this calculated final price. So this is the price that the system is using, if I may say that, to dollarize, right? To calculate the value of the demand. Now, how is this calculated final price determined? Then is where we have to look at the rest of the key figures. So for this product, for example, we have contract unit price. This contract unit price is coming from production data. So this product might be included in a contract that has this price, and for this particular entity. So the price of this autoclave, however you pronounce it, is $570 per unit. Okay. So the system will check all the different prices that it has: contract unit price, PO unit price, MAP unit price, FIG unit price, and will follow the, let's say, the sequence that we described before. If there is fair market value, this would be the value that would be taken first. If not, it would be contract unit price, right? And then we have the sequence that we were showing before. I think it was here: contract, MAP, and PO. So we'll take contract. If there is no contract price, we'll take MAP price, the moving average price that is in inventory. If not, we'll take PO, and so on and so on. But then for every product, we will have a calculated final price. Is this clear? Is this how these key figures relate? I was looking, a few days ago we had in the training environment, and I'll make sure that we have this, let's say, loaded again, different product with moving average price. But unfortunately now I don't see the moving average price or PO price for some of them. So we need to populate extra data. So if you go, yes.
David, when it comes to the PO unit price. Which PO we are talking about? From the fiscal year, current fiscal year, is it an average last couple of fiscal years, or it is the most recent PO unit price?
All right. So for that one, maybe Dinesh or Casper can confirm technically what PO are we considering for the PO unit price? Casper or Dinesh?
We are right now, as per the design, looking into back until 3 years in the past with the most recent PO. So the idea of going 3 years back is if there aren't anything within the current fiscal year, at least there's a price from the last PO. So 36 months is the rule, with the most recent one being priority.
Very good. Thanks.
Okay. So we look into the past for 3 years, and then we take the most recent purchase order. Okay. So this is it. So now this is about the first tab. As you can see, we have different product IDs in the system with a contract, right? So you will be doing the exercise. You will be analyzing your product IDs and finding the calculated final price. We will make sure that we have some MAP values that were generated. So you will see how the system is taking in different scenarios, different calculated final prices, because most of them right now we have the contract. But that is the logic that we described, and this is something that we can check here. And also remember to next week we have additional practice. So the cases that we will be showing would be a bit more advanced for you to get more details on the behavior of the templates, not only what key figures we are using, right? So we will go more to exceptions.
David, before you change the screen, there is a question from George about the variable unit price.
Okay.
And also we have an end. So I don't know if it's related to this. Maybe we should take now.
So I think for the fixed unit price and variable unit price, and I think Casper can add more there on Dinesha. I think it's for some of these products. This might be also for fuel, right, Dinesha?
Sorry, I was muted again. Yes. So one second. All right. The fixed, the variable price is used only for fuel, like I said before, because it was our understanding that fuel is, when you try to dollarize fuel, there's always a fixed component, and as the market changes, there's a variable component. So if the ultimate summarization of this is, if the service is planned by quantity, which in our case is fuel, the price would be fixed and variable. If the service is planned by value, it is just fixed for now. So I mean that's the rule. Eventually, once we have the other services coming in, because right now it's based on value, once the other services coming in, we can switch. And one other thing is, because services right now are based on value, when we are considering it as a multiplication, we are considering a factor of 1 because it's already based on value.
Yeah. So I wanted to show also one example of a service in this table. So let me just recap. We have contract unit price that is coming from the contracts in the system for the entity. We have PO unit price that is coming from the most recent PO in a time frame of 3 years. We have moving average price. Is it moving average price well known by everybody? Could you please reply if you need me to explain what is moving average price, or if it's a concept well known? And then Cyril, if you can tell me the feedback, because I cannot see the chat. Or Valentina.
No one is saying so. Go ahead and explain. I think it will be helpful.
Okay. So the moving average price is the price that is registered in the system as per the inventory, that is considering, let's say, the different purchases in a particular product for an entity, right? So it's an average price for the product that we have in inventory, considering the history of purchases. For example, if we have been acquiring this product at $500, in let's say for the last year, or a 570 would be 570. But then if we start acquiring this product as with a minor price, then moving average price would be reduced. So it's like a reference that we have in the inventory to consider the value of the items that we have in inventory. This is very much used on logistic process when we are issuing out materials, and it's very relevant for the financing impact as well. So all the items that we have in inventory in production will have a moving average price in principle for your entity. Okay, so that's why I would like to improve this.
If I can add something.
Yeah.
It's just to make comment on moving average price and fair market value, that those concepts come from something that organization already taken as we are referring basically here to IPSAS, that is quite familiar to many staff members. So I think also that that can provide further guidance when it comes to moving average price and fair market value.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And if anyone needs extra information, we can send you some reference documentation about it as well. Okay, so this
Just,
was about
David,
yeah.
to confirm, there's any relation between the moving average price and the inventory?
Yeah, if there is any relation, yeah, of course, because the moving average price, right, it's maintained by the transaction that we are performing in inventory. So if we start receiving items, when the moment that we receive an item or we acquire an item that goes to inventory, we'll have a moving average price. Now, for the entities that don't have inventory, I don't. Maybe you can confirm, Casper, but they will not see a moving average price. Casper or Dinesha?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So
Same thing for serialized item.
Serialized item is equipment, right? So it's something different.
Yes, for serialized items that are not assets, you will see a moving average price, but if it's an asset, you won't.
Exactly. So yeah, so this is something more specific to them, and then maybe we can discuss more in details during the following days. My point is that by the time you will do the exercise, we will try to have more values here. So it's important that you notice that in some cases when you have multiple prices, the system is following the sequence described by Valentina and the rest of the colleagues. Let me try to find.
Sorry, David. Can you tell me that you have, even if you have this contract price and PO price history of data for 3 years, will the planner have the ability or the discretion to override it and enter a market value price there, fair market value there?
Yeah, this was, maybe Dinesh, I want to reply. This was my understanding as well, right? But
yes, that is right. So the understanding is, I mean, we know that our data is in its best form right now. Eventually, I mean, we are working with PD to clean up some of this data. But yes, Said, to answer your question, if the planner feels none of those prices reflect what the actual value of the item is, yes, the planner can update it. But I think this is where you have to be, I mean, I want to say the word cautious, because we shouldn't, I mean, we've created a separate role for the price to be updated. Not every plan has the capability to update price because it's sensitive. So I think while we have the role to sort of make that an exclusive task, we also need to have some guidance developed as to what constitutes a fair market value within each commodity.
Yeah, this will be very useful now in a situation like today. Like, for example, I mean, nobody would have thought that these PPE would be having such a huge demand. And here we go that, we have price increase at the same time, demand all around the world. And obviously that, some kind of leverage or liberty on the planner side is required when someone is forecasting for the immediate, near and the medium term future. So that will be useful, one of the, perhaps a scenario,
Okay,
Agree.
so, all right. So let me continue. I just stopped sharing because I got a connection issue. So one moment. I think it's working again. So, okay, here it is. Yeah, I wanted actually to show how it will look for services. right? So if I go and edit view, and I add a filter by, I think it's for product type, right? So filter on product type, and then I select service. I mean, this is something that I'm sure you already got when we explained it, and well, Dinesha mentioned that. I think we have few services here. So what unit price do you expect for the services? Let me ask you while it's loading. Can someone reply? What unit price you expect to see here for services? So is someone replying?
No.
Okay.
I don't see, but you can just give the number. So
yeah, it's very yeah. So for services, as we were explaining, and then the demand, the historical consumption is, I mean, is derived in value, and then also the statistical forecast is done in value. So we already have the gross demand in value, not in quantities, because what we explained about the situation with the quality of the data. For the time being, the unit price for the services is 1. It's a factor of 1, right? Because we already have the amount in dollar. So if you see the unit prices of your services as 1, don't think it's an error in the data necessarily. It's because we are at the moment with the solution, we are, let's say, planning services in value already. So there is no dollar. There is not unit price to add there. Once we will start, I mean, except for fuel, I think, as we said before. So yeah, this was just for you to notice it when you will go through the exercise. So if I go now to the second tab, all right, this one was about the prices. And if I go to second tab, it's called unit price alert. Again, I'm hoping that by the time you do the exercise, we'll have also, again, the price is restored. But the function of this tab is very interesting. It's very interesting because it will be the system, the solution will be comparing the different prices that it has available. All right. So imagine that in this situation we have a contract unit price and a PO unit price and an MAP unit price. So the system is comparing them all, and if there is a difference in price above a certain threshold, that I think it was 20%, but maybe Casper can confirm, the system will show an alert here. So this second tab contains basically the same attributes, the same key figures as we have in the first tab, and an extra one. So this second tab is mainly for you to look at this extra key figure that is called alert unit price variation. So the idea is that if you have, for example, here contract unit price 570 and you have PO unit price 200s, there is something that is not consistent, right? Because if the system has different sources for the price and there is such a difference between two, there is something that needs to be reviewed. So the system will mark this product with an alert that you will see. All right, I think actually in the exercise we have better screenshots of this one that we can see. And then otherwise, for the second part of the exercises, we will have it. Actually, Dinesha is confirming that it's 25%. So if the variation between two different prices for the product is more than 25%, we will have an alert. Okay, it is understood. Is this useful for you? I think since the system is bringing prices from all over the places, it would be a good thing to capture possible errors in the data. For example, if your moving average price is, in this case, is 0, right? So it's not a particular value. But if your moving average price is too low or too high compared to the contract, then we might need to revisit the data and see what is the issue before the system takes a value that is so different from other sources. So basically, this second tab is all about this key figure that I think could even be added to the other tab, for example. Any question about this alert unit price variation? Is it understood the point?
We have 3 requests to talk, and one is quite from at least 15 minutes. Johan?
Yes, please. If it's, please.
Johan?
Yeah, I'm coming, the microphone. So you can stay here, Dave, because my question is in addition to what Ziad said, and it's for Dinesha probably. If we capture under the PO unit price, if we look into the last 3 years, maybe we should consider the BPC as well, the budget solution. I think they look into the last year, because at the end of the day, when we'll transfer everything from here into the BPC, somehow the figures they have to reconcile. Just as a note, just as a, or maybe Dinesha, you can confirm if it's more than 1 year in BPC as well.
Or Teresa is also connected, so maybe she wants to jump in.
Whoever, yeah.
Hi, David. Hi, Johan. I confirm, yes, BPC only brings up the previous budget cycle and doesn't go any further.
Meaning that we'll have a slight conflict probably. Second one is regarding the fixed and variable prices. I presume they are pre-populated by the system, correct? It's not the user to
exactly.
Load them in.
Pre-populated. Yeah. That's why this is training environment. So maybe, I'll work on the data. We will work on the data. So when you do the exercise, you have more data here. It's coming from the system, and actually from this other application, how it's called, Casper, the application that contains the fuel prices.
EFMS.
Yeah, exactly.
EFMS.
Yeah, EFMS, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the same for moving average price and the other ones. Okay.
We have George and Thuli. I think Thuli was first. Thuli?
Hello, how are you? Yes. Just follow up on previous question on PP of COVID-related critical goods that has significant change in price. I think that is something that is applicable to other areas as well. So it will be interesting also to see how system will reflect changes in prices, because this will be iterative process, basically done every month. We will go through all these steps so that we update the rolling plan. So maybe it is interesting to see a situation where contract price change over period of time, whether that will be captured with next iteration. And also, for example, when we have new products that was never existed, or it is not in contract portfolio, and then fair market value is established by end user, and now moving forward we have basically contract established, and then we know exact price, whether system will switch from this what was assumed as fair market value to actual PO or contract value. I think that is important, because change in demand can happen, not only that quantity remain the same, but then price of goods and service change on the way. So this is something that is important to recognize as part of implementation. Any comments whether we have something in the system or we need to fine tune? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Suli. So this is also again for Dinesha, right? Because if we understood correctly, the sequence, or let's say the priority that the system, as the solution is giving to the price, it goes first to fair market value, right? So in the example that Suli explained, we are giving first the fair market value, and then we will have a contract unit price, for example. So will the system, Dinesha, the system will still consider fair market value as the calculated final price, right?
Yes, it is.
So yeah, so maybe that's a point to discuss in offline. What if it's the best approach or not, because it's more for the business. It's a business discussion, I guess. Okay, so yeah, so we take note as usual, Sully, of your questions that then the UCS team will discuss and also discuss with you, of course. There we said something that I'm afraid we need to comment again regarding to the previous question about the prices that are derived from EFMS or not. So Dinesha, could you please clarify? But I'm afraid I said something that was more an assumption. So the fixed unit price and variable unit price are populated from where?
Yes. Sorry, I keep hearing an echo. So EFMS only brings the consumption and entity consumed, and it's recorded in EFMS in terms of quantity. But EFMS is not bringing any pricing because EFMS doesn't, store any of that price, and we are giving the planner the capability to. So if you look at these key figures that's right in front of you, contract, PO, MAP is directly coming from the interface. So the planner will never have the capability to manually adjust any of these three. But we want the planner the capability to, the price planner to adjust some of these values. So that capability is given through the fixed and the variable. Once the planner has influenced the fixed and the variable, then system does an internal calculation based on the various rules that we described for services, a multiplication of 1, etc. The system then derives what we call the fair market value. So if you look at these key figures right on the screen, fair market value is a calculated key figure. Questions?
Sorry, thank you. I was muted. So yeah, so remember that what we said was not initially was not accurate. So please pay attention to this point from Dinesha. The fixed unit price and variable unit price, as well as the fair market value, will be maintained by the price plan. All right. So it's not derived from EFMS, as we said before. Is that clear? So any question about it?
We still have a hand from George.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, George.
Hi. Just I have a question for the fuel issue. Actually, we are supported by two missions on cost recovery principle. So I think the data will not appear in our IPP. Should I plan for it, or the other missions should plan for me? This is the first question. And in addition, since I can adjust and amend those fields of the fixed unit price, variable unit price, and the fair market value, should I insert the historical data manually for the fuel, for example? This is my question. Thank you.
George, if you don't mind, I would like to take this question offline. We've had some discussions on this fuel being provided on a cost recovery basis. If you don't mind, I'll chat with you separately on it, because right now we've had some limitations in terms of the data that we are pulling from EFMS.
Sure, Dinesh. Okay.
Thanks.
Well, fine.
Okay, thank you for that and for the questions, and Valentina for letting us know. So yeah, so coming back to this, these are the key figures that are important for you to be aware, and then you have some exercises to read them and go through them. And in this second tab, remember we have the alert unit price variation that if in this exercise, not in the next week, we will have some examples for you to identify where the alerts are.
Sorry. So this fixed and variable price is applicable only for a limited number of commodities, not across the board for everything, correct?
Right. That's what Dinesha was explaining, and mainly it's for fuel, right, Dinesha? Yeah. I mean, that's what we said before.
No, I mean, if you want to override it for any commodity, you will use fixed and variable. And let's get into it through the exercise.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go to the last tab. So also remember that we have the next week sessions to go through it. That will be smaller groups, so everybody will go through the exercise, and we will be able to, let's say, have more interactive discussions. So the last tab of this template is called unit price value, and it's I think it's very easy to understand, because it will give us the information that we had on the previous tabs, with the prices, with the contract unit price, and so on. Let me just go to the top. So we'll still have the contract unit price, PO unit price, MAP, fixed unit price, variable unit price, fair market value, and the calculated final price. And then if we already have some gross demand, it will give us the value. It will already multiply, and that's why it was in a different level. It will already give us the gross demand value. So basically multiplying, and this is something that we can see also from the next in the next template. So in order not to explain it twice, we will cover it on the gross demand. So it's basically, now I have to find also some products that have let's say the gross demand, right? Because those are all the prices for the entity. Let me take, for example, this one is, for example, right? So this one already has the calculated. So let me take ventilator. That is one example that we have used during the training. We have the contract unit price and the calculated final price. This is basically the price that the system is determined for this element. And then we have the calculated base gross demand, that is 152, and the gross demand value, which is the multiplication of the final price by the quantity. All right, so this is basically what we have in the third tab. However, this the unit price value is related to the gross demand, so I think for US users it makes more sense to look at it from the other template. If I were you, I would focus on the unit price and unit price alert to understand how the solution works. And then for the value, we have the gross demand that will give us more the figures that we have in our, let's say, in our exercises. Okay, so this is about dollarization template. If I may go now to the second template, which is the gross demand. And then, of course, Valentina, let me know if there is any additional comment before I start with the gross demand template.
Sure, no comments and question.
Okay, thank you so much. So now let's talk about the gross demand template. That is the other one that Valentina explained. And it's an important one that will show us all the elements that we have included in the past as demand. If you remember, as part of the demand, we included EPP demand, we included equipment as an additional demand, and we have the statistical forecast. So this template will show us our gross demand. So it will show all these components. So we are going to open this one. It's the template number 60, gross demand. And again, very important that you filter by your plant. So you will go here, you enter your plant. Okay, and you put your plant here and you apply. Now I already did that, so we don't need to do it again. And this is the template that will show us all the gross demand components that we have. Okay. So let's look at this data. What do we have here? We have all the products that we have under this plant for the gross demand. And then the first thing that we can see already is this one, for example. If I look at tube blood vacuum, I see here EPP demand. So we have a number of key figures, and the system will be extracting the demand from the different templates. So let me go first to explain the key figures, and then we'll show different examples that contain demand from previous templates. So the first one is the final statistical forecast. Okay, don't look yet to the numbers, only look at the key figures. Final statistical forecast, we know this key figure. This was coming from the statistical forecast template. So this is in the future our demand that we have planned. So the system is extracting that. Then we have additional demand that was the another key figure that we were using basically in the equipment template. So as additional demand, we will have what we enter in the equipment template, and we will be able here, because it's editable, to add other additional demand that we might need, that we might consider important. Based on, for example, this is the place where we will enter demand for products that where we don't have historical data, for example. Then we have the calculated base gross demand and value. That is a system that will be adding final statistical forecast, additional demand, and also EPP demand. So we have the three elements are these ones: final statistical forecast, additional demand, and EPP demand. Now, in these products, you don't see the three of them because, for example, this product was added as a statistical forecast, this product was an EPP, but there was no historical data. So let me show a screenshot of data where we have all these elements. That is not real, let's say, data from the training environment, but I think it's useful for us to understand. So the example of this product ID has all the components. So you can see with these numbers how it actually, the solution behaves. We have, as I said, final statistical forecast. This is coming from the statistical forecast template. This one is very easy. It's a constant consumption pattern, and it gives 214 for all the months. We have, in this particular product, we have also EPP demand, because this product was also included in a project. So in June, we have 56, in July, 100, 200, so this is another one. And then as an additional demand, we could even have something coming from equipment, or we could add something here. So these first three key figures are the three components that we always said that, let's say, together make our gross demand. What do we have under calculated base gross demand? Is the addition of these three. So if you look at this month, June, you'll see the calculated gross demand is 214 plus 56, 270. Or here in July, you have 214 plus 100, 340. So the calculated base gross demand will have the addition of the three elements. This is your calculated gross demand. And then as calculated base gross demand value, we will have the amount in dollar value, right? Because the system will get unit price from the other template that we saw, and we multiply it to give you the value. This one is empty because we didn't, let's say we didn't have a price at the moment we took a screenshot. So these are the three components, and they go to calculated base gross demand. That is the initial. Is this understood? That calculated base gross demand will have the three elements. Is this clear? Is there any question about these three elements? Valentina or anyone?
Okay, it's clear. However, I have a hand. I see Gisela. Yes, and Gisela A1 again. So you want to take? Yeah.
Yes, David, just a clarification. On this particular template, in additional demand, the planner has the ability to do or make inputs here as well. Is that what you said?
Yes, it's correct. It's correct.
Okay. So my follow-on question to that, if I make a change at this level, will the previous templates auto-adjust themselves, or?
It is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that's a very good comment, because it's a key figure, right? So maybe
Yeah,
it's the same key figure that is displayed in different templates, right?
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. So,
Yes,
Priscilla,
Nadia.
that's a very good question. So yes, if you were in, I think the previous template, I believe it was 50 for equipment, and you reviewed all your equipment and you add an additional demand. That same key figure gets copied over here. And at this point, you're making the final adjustments to the gross demand, and you want to say, maybe I really want to increase or decrease additional demand a little bit more. That same key figure is presented here, so you can adjust it. So whatever adjustment you make in 50 or 60 should flow either way.
Okay, automatically will flow. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Dinesha.
But just follow-up question on this one. Where it will flow? Because here you are doing adjustment overall quantity. But if you have 3 sources, how this reflection of the changes to where it will go? Let's say I reduce 20 containers. How system knows that this will be reduced on the data coming from project or equipment or statistical forecast?
It depends on where you are adjusting. So if you are adjusting the key figure EPP demand, this key figure is also visible on the EPP project, on the EPP template. If you are adjusting additional demand, you will see it on the, also it will be visible on any other template that is showing additional demand. Now, different thing is you adjust gross demand at the end, right? This is a different element. So I wanted to explain first these 3. So as Dinesha confirmed, if you edit here, that's the same key figure. All right.
Sorry, additional demand can be adjusted here. Unfortunately, from my understanding, EPP cannot, because EPP is at a different planning level. I believe we can confirm that. I don't want to say something that I'm not 100% certain. EPP, unlike other key figures, is at a different planning level. We'll confirm and let you know.
Okay, so let's confirm that. Yeah.
David, 1 second, because Sully's question was actually a little bit different from what we interpreted. Sully, correct me if I'm wrong, if you do a correction at additional demand, an addition now, additional demand, it's not just one element. It can be equipment replacement, it can be another project, it can be ad hoc demand. So his question is, if I adjust here, how the system knows what I'm adjusting? I'm adjusting equipment, I'm adjusting a service. It is correct, Sully?
Yes, exactly.
But if you look at the template here, and also, it's a very good question. Actually, I remember I asked something similar. If we are modifying here, remember that we are this is additional demand for this particular product. Okay, so this is additional demand for a particular product at a particular planning level. Okay, so it's not a general additional demand for the full demand, for the full gross demand. It's always we are talking about a particular product line.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
Okay, so you see here product ID. So we are only modifying the additional demand of this product ID. Okay, so this is not, let's say, a single font. So final statistical forecast, we know it's coming from the template. EPP demand is coming from the template. We need to confirm, because in the system I was able to adjust, but we need to confirm that. Additional demand, you can adjust it, or if you have a new product, you can add additional demand. Then we have calculated base gross demand. That will give you the addition of the 3. Then we have calculated base gross demand value. That is multiplying this quantity for the unit price, or if we are talking about the service, it would be the same. Okay, and then we have here at this level the option to adjust the gross demand. So if after we have our calculated base gross demand, we consider that we, as a planner, that we need to adjust something, it's possible to adjust the gross demand directly here. But remember, what we enter is the final, let's say, gross demand. So it's not, we cannot add something negative to reduce. We don't, if we want to reduce by 60, we will put in June 210. We will not put minus 60, right? So whenever we adjust, we are not entering the adjustment. We are entering the adjusted gross demand. This is something similar to what we did in other templates. So then after we adjust that and we save, we will have the gross demand. That is the next key figure. Okay. And then we have also actually the gross demand maybe will come automatically. And then after saving, we will have the final gross demand. That is what we will be the end of the process. And that what we go also for net demand. Now, this is how it works. So I can show you in the system. Again, we need to check something that technically is not displaying the way I was expecting. In the system, I have different examples of products that have for example, the APP that you entered or the additional demand that you entered. For example, this tube has the APP demand that was entered by some of you in the APP template, right? For example, this other product. So for this other product, we have also the statistical forecast. Okay, that is why it's not merged, because there is the ABC code that maybe we need to remove. Okay, so we have a statistical forecast that is final statistical forecast that is coming from the template that we were discussing. Then we have, in this case, the calculated gross demand and the value. I can show you as well another example of one that we would use in the equipment template. So if I filter by, let me show another product ID. So you see that it's coming from the APP template. Product ID. So we have this one. This one, for example, I think it had some additional demand. So you see that it's extracted in the system. Okay, so you see this one had final statistical forecast. This is the monitor vital signs. So it has an additional demand. Remember, when we checked the equipment template, there were some elements that were whose operational useful life was expiring in September. There were like 10 in stock and 15 in operation. And we added this as an additional demand. So probably this is data from some of you. All right. And so yeah, so this was what I wanted to show. And then we will see the figures, because there is something in the data that we need to review in the training environment. But I hope this template is I think somehow easy. So I hope this explanation, and especially what we have in the exercise, plus the practice that we will continue next week, will help us for you to get fully how the solution works, and I hope it's understood.
David, when you do the adjusted gross demand, and there's a possibility to add a note, right? Could you show how to?
Yeah, the note. Yeah, the note it's common to all the templates, right? So yeah, for adding notes, remember that what we need to do is to, let's say if we add an adjustment here, whatever. So we say 200 something. So it was with the right click and add planning note. This is what you mean, Syria? Right click, yes. Add planning note.
That's what.
And then this we add. Of course, when we save, you will always have the typical and the pop-up with the comments. That is general. But if you want to add a note for the person that needs to review this, you just do right click and add a note. So adjustment due to whatever. Okay, thank you, Siri, for the question. I think, let me check, because I think Casper wants to add something, and Dinesh, I want you to explain something. Okay. So yes, Casper is making a very good point. Thank you. So the planning note can be added to adjusted gross demand. But not all cells, you will not have this functionality to not all cells, not in all the cells. So it's basically here. So I probably, if you right click on a different cell, you will not have this add note. Okay, so that's, you have to pay attention to that. And then Dinesha, you wanted to clarify something, I think that maybe required extra information. I think it was about the prices. So if you are there, Dinesha, the demonstration I think basically is completed. And then hopefully with the exercise and having the data reviewed, it will help to continue with the learning process. Are you there, Dinesha?
Yes, I am here. No, I think there have a lot of questions, and I think there was a little bit of confusion on the prices. So what I want to say is that if you, I mean, I don't know if you can bring up that pricing template, David.
Sure. Yes, 1 second.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you go all the way up, the first key
Yeah.
figure, the contract unit price, that's something that it'll automatically flow from SRM through HANA. And then the PO price is also something automatically will come, and MAP is something that will automatically come. So once the solution has gone live, there'll be no place for the planner or the price planner to adjust any of these three. And if it's a material, the planner will influence it through fixed. And if it's services, yeah, and if it's fuel, the planner will influence both the fixed and the variable. And based on an internal rule, the fair market value, then there's a calculation that's in place at the back of the system where if it's a product, it'll take fixed, but if it's services based on value, it'll take fixed, but if it's fuel, it'll take fixed and variable. That's an internal calculation the system provides. Once fixed market value is calculated, then system performs another calculation for the final price per dollarization, which is the order that Valentina and I referred to, which is in the order of if there's a fair market value that exists, system will choose that, if not contract, if not PO, if not MAP. So that's the rule for the pricing.
Yeah. So do you think it makes sense next week to explain how to maintain the prices? Or that we will train particular, let's say, people that will get the role?
Yeah, we can, I think, have a quick demo how to update these prices. Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so this is because we were showing, let's say, services. So maybe that is the view that we were expecting. Thank you for the clarification, Dinesha. So as Dinesha said, let me just recap: contract unit price, PO unit price, MAP unit price. It's derived from the system automatically, so you don't need to, you will not need to do anything. And then we have fixed unit price, variable unit price, or market value that can be let's say maintained from the master data, and then we have the calculated final price that the system is deriving from the based on the values that we have on the prices. So yeah, that's all from my side, and then Valentina.
Yeah, there are two. Sayed, yeah, and then Harper.
Oh, okay, thanks, David and Valentina. I just want to ask you about these. David, you said this adjusted gross demand is the adjusted amount. That is the outcome, the figure that you like to have there. So if you're going to go with a figure that is you want it to be there under adjusted gross demand, then how about these final statistical forecast and additional demand? They may not add up, is it, in the end, with the adjusted gross demand figure that you're going to get there?
Exactly. So when you enter the adjusted gross demand, you are overriding the gross demand. So the value that we will have,
all right, that's number one. Question number two on the same thing is, now you talked about this EPP adjustment. So Dinesha said EPP adjustment cannot be done in this template. So does that mean that the adjustment should be done in the EPP template that we generated under master data previously, which came to the template as an input from master data?
Yeah, that we need to confirm that. So it's basically if the key figure is coming editable or not, right, Dinesha?
Yes. So Sai, just to clarify, the only master data component you entered in terms of EPP was the EPP project header and the item. But the moment you went to the EPP template, I believe it's 40, that is not master data at that point. It's actually the key figure data. And that EPP demand you enter here, like David showed, flows here. And I think the team is confirming between Aishatau and Florin is that even though it's visible here, I don't think we should change it because it's actually at a different planning level. But like I said, we will confirm. And if we confirm, we will also look into the possibility of making this non-editable here. Otherwise, I think it causes confusion.
Yeah, so I mean, it relates to the, because you say since it is not possible to change, in case if it can be changed in this template here, so it is related to also the earlier question from Suli. So once you update this, will it in backward, it will correct on the other end in the template, in the EPP template. If the system allows to adjust the EPP here, in the gross demand, will it go back to the original template and adjust the figure at the same time?
No, unfortunately, unlike other key figures, EPP is a key figure that is at a different level. So first of all, I'm 95% sure that we cannot edit it here, and if it edit, it causes some kind of an inconsistency. So for EPP, I wouldn't even look into updating it here. Only thing that we can update here that flows backwards is the additional demand.
All right, thank you.
Denisha, just on this question, but we cannot have gross demand editable because we don't know from where it comes. If it is a user is allowed to change, then whole this process doesn't have structure in, because we have demand coming from 3 buckets, and if user is able to just change the final gross demand by editing, I think that is something that I think is very. I think either we make this field not editable because it cannot be reflected in any 3 buckets, or for me it doesn't make sense that you can have whole process where you have opportunity to adjust, and then you leave and you adjust just gross demand with no connection to any of 3 mentioned buckets that we were discussing last 8-9 days.
So, Suli, to answer your question, yes, the 3 buckets would constitute the gross demand, but we've given the capability through the key figure adjusted gross demand for the final gross demand to be adjusted. And there are many reasons for it. First of all, that's not adjusted gross demand is not a key figure that will be available to all the planners. I believe it's restricted to the senior demand planner and the supply chain manager, I believe. I mean, we can confirm. But the idea behind it is once the service delivery sections formulate the demand, and there is this discussion ongoing between service delivery and acquisition planning through the local IBP meeting, there is a discussion that takes place. And if there are final adjustments to be done based on some of the agreements, they can make it through this. I think this is where, rather than, in system-wise, we are restricting it to a very specific role, but what needs to be built around it is the guidance and the policies around it. Who can adjust it? What constitutes an adjustment here? We also looked into the possibility that if we give this key figure to everybody, planners would probably stop adjusting it everywhere else and directly come adjust it here. That's why we are restricting it. But I think around it, we need to build that change management, that policies and guidance around it.
David, there is a question, there is an answer from Herbert from long time. I will give him the floor, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to summarize a little bit of comments that came now on this, possible modification of these figures that came from the previous templates. I think that's very, very dangerous. First of all, we would allow people to bypass the whole proper planning process, just do the adjustment in the final gross demand template. So I think we want to avoid that. We want to avoid having any shortcuts like that. If there is a policy, as Inesha says, then this policy needs to be reflected in the roles of the system of who actually do that. Not just have a written document that people will most likely ignore, because we have seen this over the years. Whether this is in Galileo or this is now in Numoj and in other modules where we just take the shortcuts. And getting away with it. So we need to make sure that we don't allow this. And on the other thing is also not only to take shortcuts, but then also who stops anybody from making these adjustments from outside. Many people will have these roles. Let's be honest about it. And anybody can go in there and just randomly make adjustments. So we also need to avoid thinking. Technical units versus we want to avoid the technical units will just go in there and make random adjustments as they want. This needs to be restricted. Be very careful with this. Otherwise, that whole very carefully planned and and now implemented planning process is going to be overthrown if you let anybody make adjustments at the final step. Very careful. Thank you.
Yes, Herbert, you're absolutely right. I mean, systematically, like we said, we've restricted it to the two key roles in a mission. I think it's the chief supply chain and a head of a service delivery section. But I mean, we are open to it. This is based on our thought process of how the entity would operate. We've come up with this, and we can discuss this, I think, further during the operationalization.
Thank you. Valentina, before we go to the next hand, as there were some comments, and Dinesha was confirming, was saying that the EPP cannot modify, and I got the message just to share how is the behavior in the system. So even though if you could even see we'll see if it's editable or not, but even if it's editable, if you try to save the data after modifying EPP demand, the system will give you an error, will tell you that is not possible to modify the EPP demand. I just got it. So, okay, so it's not, just to confirm that what Dinesha said, that it's not possible to modify the, this is not the same error I got in the previous screenshot, but it was telling that EPP data cannot be, and you have to go to the template 40. So this is confirmed, Dinesha. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sequence formulation, that's key figure. There is one second, there is Sayed and also Salvatore. Yes, Sayed?
I asked the question already, thanks.
Oh, okay, good. So
yeah,
Salvatore?
Yes, thank you. But I believe most of my colleagues anticipated my doubts. And just to emphasize what I've been already told and Dinesh replied, but this template seems to be the top of the castle, so it doesn't make really sense to modify all the figures here, even though because EPP has to be created by senior roles, as I can see from the exercise. So in my humble opinion, should be modified this template only from a senior management. Maybe you didn't introduce yet the matter of the roles in this solution, but this is to add some points to what have been already told. Thank you.
Thank you, Salvatore. Thank you.
There is a question from George. Could you please provide us with a sequence formulation of the dollarization key figure?
I think it's in the presentation, right, Valentina?
Yes. So let me get Giorgio, you mean in the template or in the presentation?
No, actually, in the dollarization template,
right?
Danisha mentioned that the fixed unit price, variable unit price, and fair market value are editable. And actually, I have tried, but still the template give me an error on the saving.
George, maybe because we didn't explain, I didn't explain that correctly. When we say that they are editable, but they are not editable in the dollarization template, because this is master data, right? So we will have to show, and then we will do it next week, how to edit and maintain the prices, right? But not in the template. In the template, the system is, let's say, displaying the prices, how they come from the master data, and the contract MPO and MAP, how they come from production. Okay?
Yeah, actually, there is an answer from Dinesh about it. Okay, so I don't have any.
Sorry for the confusion.
No, sorry. Thank you for your question, because if you are confused, it's because I didn't explain myself well. That's it. So thank you for the question.
So no other ends and question.
I think
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, yeah. So I think it's, I'll give the floor to Cyril and Himanshu as usual, or to Dinesha if she wants to add something.
No, thank you very much, David. And as I said, maybe I also encourage people to look time to time to the chart if they can, because in the chart also many comments are important, and also many questions, several questions are addressed. So it's also good. You're trying to do it, simultaneously at the same time. So okay. Thanks to Valentina. Thank you to David as well. Yeah, Valentina.
Yes, Imanshu, forgive me for this. Actually, now that you mentioned, there was a very, very interesting remark, I think, from Herbert, and Dinensha answer. He was asking why we are dollarizing the gross demand, if that is it's crucial only in net demand, because it's then connected to budget. And Dinensha said that it was actually, Dinensha, correct me if I'm wrong, is to show as a piece of information how much the gross demand in terms of value is at this stage of the process. So I wanted to mention this because I thought that it could be also the thought of many other people that don't use the chat or intervene. Just this. To you, Imanshu.
Thank you, guys. I don't want to take more time, and I think a good session today, looking at the comments and the discussion. I just want to reiterate sort of what Herbert and a few of you mentioned. Planning is a delicate process, and it requires a very, very high level of due diligence, because a lot will depend on how we plan. And it's not that we haven't been planning for all this time. It's more. Sorry, somebody's unmute. I think George, can you mute George, please? We don't have a silver bullet to truly teach how somebody should behave in terms of planning. The tools are there, some guidelines, some structure would be there. And typically in an organization that I've seen in the past, people go through rigorous training to become expert planners, and even then they can only get to a certain percentage of accuracy in predicting the future. But it will be important, entity to entity, to identify individuals who would spend their whole time looking into how to plan better for the organization between the various different services and departments. And the leadership's role would be very crucial in looking and reviewing the aspects of the plan and improvising it over the various periods. We feel that it will take at least 1 to 2 good iterations of whole year, and because we work mentally into fiscal year modes, to get off that train of thoughts where we're just planning around the budget and money, and actually planning around what we need and when we need it and how we need it. And then we will be able to create that planning culture, which will be a lot more stringent. Do not let me discount what happens today. I know there's a lot goes in to make sure that the operations run and everything is still happening on the time as it's needed. But the tool will bring more reality to how we are doing things and the transparency in some of the aspects. So yes, Albert, it would be important that not everybody is simply going into the tool and punching numbers. I think we would make sure that they go through this process, through the training and through various assessments, to be certified to be in the tool to begin with. And then at the entity level, we would expect, like yourselves and other leadership, to make sure that the people are identified who take this as a responsibility, where their performance depends on how well they take this process and seriously and work with it. I think that's all for me for now. And thank you for your time and commitment on this.
Thank you so much, Imanshu. So that's all for today. See you tomorrow at the same time.
Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good session. Bye.
Yeah, we'll send you the exercises for you to practice.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.